So after Boruto's time skip, there was a significant shift in the power dynamic between the characters in TBV Vortex. To put this into perspective, pre-time skip it was pretty clear that Daemon cleared basically the entire verse, but after the time skip I'm hard pushed to put him even top 3. So I thought, how about I take every character in the series at their peak and rank them in order for the top 10 strongest characters in Boruto TBV Vortex. Before we get started with the top 10, let's just do some honorable mentions as some big names have not made it into the list. So first of all, we have Sasuke. Now hold on a minute, put down your pitchforks. I'm not saying that Sasuke is weak, and he is still one of my favorite characters in the entire series, but this is not a popularity contest. And with Boruto's ridiculous power scaling where everyone is competing to be on par with Otsutsuki gods nowadays, it just means that a lot of people, including Sasuke, have fallen behind in terms of power. But next up we have Ada, who again might shock a lot of people. But contrary to popular belief, Ada is basically useless to anyone who ignores her ability. And you'll see in this top 10 that almost every single person will be able to avoid that ability of hers. And on top of that, if they are affected by the charm ability, they can probably just run away or tank whatever she has to throw at them. I think post time skip Sarada would easily beat Ada in a one-on-one battle. And spoiler alert, she also did not make the list. And lastly, out of all the honorable mentions, I have Mitsuki and Sarada. Now I know Mitsuki managed to knock out Kawaki in one shot or whatever, but that really isn't a feat of strength. And if Kawaki was aware that he was fighting and doesn't have his guard completely down, that tactic would never have worked. And he obviously had his fight with Boruto, but being so Boruto completely no-diffed him, it's kind of hard to use that in Mitsuki's favour. And also Sarada does have the potential to get onto this list, but we are just waiting to see how she compares to the Claw Grime, because as of right now, we don't know any of her Mangekyo Sharingan abilities, and we also just don't know how she compares to what she was pre-time skip. So with them out of the way, at number 10 we have Momoshiki. So I'm referring to the actual Momoshiki rather than Boroshiki, as Boroshiki in a post-time skip would be a completely different monster, even though we are yet to even see whether we might get a Boroshiki in the time skip. But from the feats that we saw from Momoshiki before the time skip, he was able to somewhat beat Naruto one-on-one, and I know Naruto did go all out to protect the village, but he still lost. And then he held his own against Naruto and Sasuke, but the reason he doesn't go any higher is because he lost to them at half power. And you will see with the next person in the list, Momoshiki is the only person who would lose to Naruto and Sasuke combined on this list. So he simply can't go any higher, but in terms of feats, we can easily see that he's insanely strong. And the main way we can determine this is how much of a menace this guy becomes as soon as he takes over Boruto's body. Every time we see this guy manifest, it's just a given that bodies are gonna drop. And he only manages to take over Boruto's body when Boruto is low on chakra. So he doesn't have a lot of chakra reserves to mess around with. He is just a different breed. But he also has those Otsutsuki genetics, so he can fly, absorb all ninjutsu, and he has 3 bloody Rinnegan, as if 2 wasn't already enough. So yeah, Momoshiki is busted, which was pretty obvious and no secret to anyone, but he can't go any higher on this list simply due to the fact that he got his cheeks clapped by half power Naruto and Sasuke. So coming in at number 9, we have Mr. Black Air Force himself, Jigen. Now for those of you who are reading Boruto back in the day, you know Jigen had that special kind of aura that only certain Naruto villains carry. The PTSD this guy instilled in every fan was ridiculous. How the hell is a guy no-diffing the supposed strongest guys in the verse? He broke through a perfect Susanoo, that is completely unheard of. The first time we saw Jigen fight was the most outrageous introduction to a character we have ever seen, and I'm talking even higher than Madara. It must be said though, that in this fight it may have seemed that he no-diff full power Naruto and Sasuke, but there was a couple of stipulations a lot of people forgot about which allowed him to do what he did. So before the fight he did take a lot of the Ten Tails chakra, which allowed him to spam the Sukuna Hikona throughout the fight. And after the fight he did have a 5-day rest, or it might have been longer, I'm not sure, where he was only at roughly 10% power. So it wasn't as devastating a defeat as we thought it was, but he did what Momoshiki couldn't, and that was beat Naruto and Sasuke. So for that reason alone, I'm gonna place him higher than Momoshiki. So at number 8 we have the walking L, Code. So I'd love to meme the shit out of Code and just leave him off this list, but he does have some feats to his name. Despite getting mopped by every character he comes across, I would say his main feat, and the only thing which gets him a place on this list, was Amado's claim that he was a threat beyond Jigen without his limiters. Now I don't know whether that's just Kishimoto trying to build up hype around him losing his limiters, but the hype really crashed and burned when he was literally no-diffed by an 8-year-old the moment he got his limiters removed. What on earth was he thinking when he spent years building up Code for him to just scamper off like a rat and hide for a couple years to train or whatever? And he was actually harmed by a 10% version of Sasuke, which is just completely ridiculous. But realistically, minus a flame, it does seem about right for him to go above Jougan in terms of power, but I just wish Kishimoto made him a slightly better villain, as he just seems like wasted potential. So, at number 7 we have a very controversial one, and I have decided to put Daemon at number 7, and that is for a few reasons. I know a lot of you probably thought that Daemon was like top 5 or top 3, but trust me, when you compare his feats, it really isn't fair to put him any higher. So the main thing he has to his name is just putting everyone in the pre-time skip in a spliff. And I mean literally everyone was catching hands pre-time skip. He even said himself that he was the number 1 before the time skip, and that makes complete sense. But his main feat, which I've been discussing for a lot of characters, is the fact that he destroyed code when he had his limiters removed. But the problem is just about everyone on the list above him could do the same thing in a similar fashion. Also, I see a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, claim that Daemon is stronger than Ishiki, but that simply can't be true. So when Amado betrayed Kara, he fled to Konoha to go get Naruto and Sasuke so that they could beat Ishiki or whatever. But since he had Daemon and he knew that he had Daemon hidden away, why on earth would he go to Naruto and Sasuke if he knew that there was like Daemon and Ada who were capable of taking on Ishiki? It just wouldn't make any sense. And you can't say that Amado didn't know how strong he was, because he literally constructed Daemon. He knew all of his abilities, all of the counters, and he didn't think that Daemon would contribute to the fight. Otherwise he definitely would have unlocked them. So yeah, Daemon is not stronger than Ishiki, contrary to popular belief, because I already know a bunch of you were so ready to start flaming me in the comment section down below. But a slight bit of copium for the Daemon fans out there is the fact that we haven't seen Daemon after the time skip, and I have a feeling he might pop up in the fight against Jura in the next coming chapters, but because we haven't seen him yet, we don't know how much he's trained, we don't know what he's done in the time skip, so we just kind of have to wait for that. Anyways, at number 6 we have the OG menace himself, Ishiki Otsutsuki. Now obviously we all know this guy no-diff full power Naruto and full power Sasuke and also Boruto, but he didn't really contribute to the fight, so it's just full power Naruto and Sasuke. But it was genuinely an awful experience when you were reading these chapters month by month, because there was just no way in our minds that Naruto and Sasuke could get out of that fight alive. So Ishiki has the knowledge, he has a pure Otsutsuki genetics, more experience, full power dojutsu, and the raw power to back it up. Now he did obviously lose to Barrier Mode Naruto with like some stipulations, but I don't really want to go into them, and he was probably a lot weaker than Naruto in that state. But in terms of feats, Ishiki doesn't really have much to his name, and that's because he didn't really get that much screen time. So I think that we can just accept that Ishiki is above Daemon at the current time until Daemon has like more fights in the future, but due to the limited amount we've actually seen from him, it's hard for me to put him any higher on the list. So at number 5 we have post timeskip Kawaki. So I'm going to be totally honest with you, I didn't think I'd be having him this low, but Kishimoto got Kawaki on some code type beat. He was being a complete menace before the time skip, and his character was starting to develop perfectly, but post time skip the story really isn't doing his character any favors, especially in terms of strength. But I think this is actually a very logical decision from Kishimoto, and a lot of people are saying that his character is being ruined, but I think I see the vision. So he's constantly getting beaten up in the post time skip, and I think that is because his Karma V2 is not his final power up. And I'm going to do an entire video dedicated to this, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss when that one drops. But I think the thing a lot of people may disagree with is having him above Ishiki at the moment. And the reason why I think this is the case is because he has the battle experience from the Karma, he has the full dojutsu, and he doesn't have the Byakugan, which is a slight downside, but since we haven't really seen what they're capable of on an individual level, and we don't really have a way to distinguish who is stronger, I'm just going to take these guys as a collective for now until we see them properly fight individually. So the first time we saw these guys was when we saw Boruto confronting Code, and we saw straight away that Boruto did not really want to fight these guys, and he was even forced to retreat at the time, and we've seen that Boruto shouldn't really be scared of anyone in the post time skip, but due to numbers I'm pretty sure that it just wasn't really a good fight for him, and Kashin Koji obviously decided, being his sensei, that he should just get out of there for now. Then the next and final time we've technically seen him fight was against Kawaki and against Himawari, but the Himawari fight doesn't really count, and the one against Kawaki was literally just Kawaki in base getting punched around, which we can't really take as like anything important at this point. We obviously see that they definitely vary in terms of strength, and I think Jura at the moment is his strongest, but the fact that one of them was able to beat Kawaki pretty easily is a pretty big feat for them as a collective. So we also know a bit about their abilities, and we know that they have all got the Rinnegan, and we also saw them make that Biju bomb out of their eye, which seemed like a very potent attack at the time. And I think the main thing which like transcends them into the number 4 spot is the fact that they can use Ko's jutsu. And Ko's jutsu is actually very broken when you use it alongside like a very strong opponent, because you can just teleport and speed blitz any of your opponents. These guys also have wood style jutsu, which I think is like an ability from the Ten Tails, and we know that these guys are constantly like feeding for information, so they will maybe be able to gain a lot of knowledge about jutsu and be able to use that in their kit as well. So I think these guys are constantly going to get stronger, and I really am wondering who is going to be the final boss at this point. So I think number 4 is a good spot at the moment, as I think these guys can go up or down, like depending on different circumstances. So at number 3, I have put barrier mode Naruto. So it's pretty obvious that in barrier mode, Naruto is far stronger than Ishiki. The only thing holding him back in that fight was his rapidly declining life force. Kurama even stated that Ishiki was a lot weaker than Naruto, which is just concrete evidence that Naruto is very, very strong in this mode. So I'm just going to put it out there, and a little bit of a problem that I have with Boruto at the moment is that it has completely negated all of what made Naruto fights unique. And the reason I say this is because OG Naruto didn't rely on pure power, and generally it had a lot of ninjutsu and just normal jutsu intertwined into all of the fights. But in Boruto, all it seems to be at the moment is just who is written to have more raw power, which is really boring, and I just want to see a lot of that OG Naruto carried into Boruto. But the reason I bring that up is because Naruto can bring all of that stuff from OG Naruto into Boruto. So Naruto had mastery of all types of chakra natures. Then he was a taijutsu specialist. He obviously had that ridiculous supply of chakra, and then he had the Biju mode or the 6-path sage mode, which allowed him to fly. And when you combine all of those abilities into one single character, and then give Naruto that insane buff that all Boruto characters get, which is just raw strength, it makes a completely broken character. Because as of right now, people like Kawaki, Jougan, all of them, they just have raw power. No unique fighting styles, no like real battle IQ, no ninjutsu, none of that. And that's why I think that Naruto is just completely broken when in barrier mode. Because I think that he didn't really use his true potential when he fought Ishiki, and he was just trying to hit him as much as possible to drain his life force. But if he used some like massive Rasengan or anything like that, anything which is like really potent, or uses like diversions that he used to use, I think that Naruto is a ridiculous fighter in his style. And I truly believe that he destroys every single person before him on the list, and he even gives number 2 spot a run for his money. So speaking of the number 2 spot, I have put Boruto here, which I think a lot of people have expected at this point. So I think that Boruto is very similar to Naruto, and the reason I say that is because Boruto just didn't have that like raw strength that all the characters had in the pre-time skip, and that is why he just was very, very weak, it seemed. But during the 3-year time skip, we know that this guy trained like a madman. So he trained under Sasuke for a year, and he learned like the full Uchiha style in 1 year, and that wasn't necessarily raw strength, but that was like the perfect fighting style at the time, which allowed him to use Kenjutsu, which we see he's very good at the moment, and I would assume that he also uses perfect taijutsu. And then I'm going to assume that he uses the rest of that time to like train what all the OG Naruto characters would have done, but then on top of that, just to really top it off, he just has that raw strength now. Now he did train with Kashin Koji, which allows him to like use his flying Raijin a lot more efficiently, and I think that the flying Raijin is a completely broken ability for Boruto. And the reason I say this is so broken is because when we consider abilities nowadays similar to this, we can only really see Code's claw marks, and we know that Code has to directly go into these claw marks, and it doesn't even teleport his whole body. His entire body has to go through it to teleport to a different place. Whereas Boruto can at any point go to any like toad he set up, and Kawaki cannot stop that. And that's a big thing about Code, is that he can be countered by Kawaki. So he has a flying Raijin, which is like very, very strong, but he also has that Rasengan Uzuhiko, which is like very mysterious at the moment. We don't know how strong it is or how it works. But as far as we are aware, the Rasengan Uzuhiko can one-shot just about anybody in the series. And if Boruto is able to land that, he can just do it and then teleport away, which is almost uncounterable. But I have done a video on my channel as to how you can counter Rasengan Uzuhiko, so I'll link that in the description down below. So we know that Boruto is a prodigy, and that is what allowed him to train so efficiently during the time skip. But you have to consider how far Boruto came in such a short period in the pre-time skip. And then you have to stack that with having no disruptions, having a perfect trainer, and training for 3 years straight. It's pretty obvious that Boruto is a completely different beast to what he was in the pre-time skip. Because in the pre-time skip, Boruto was going to be going on missions and that kind of stuff, which is helping the village, but it isn't him training. So now you remove that, he's been training for 3 years straight. It's just a recipe for him to become very, very strong, and we definitely have seen that in the post time skip. But if you want me to make a video breaking down Boruto's crazy powers and how he's become so strong, if you don't feel like I've explained it enough in this video, make sure to comment it down below and I will make sure to make that video for you guys. But number one, we all saw this coming. We have Shibai Ozuki. It's pretty obvious that nobody even comes close to this guy in terms of power, and his abilities also seem ridiculously broken. If we just take a fragment of his cells and put it into an 8-year-old, they become the strongest character in the verse. We don't even know many of his abilities apart from the fact that he can bend at nature just from his pure emotions. I think this guy is pretty obviously just the strongest character in the verse, but I think the introduction of Shibai was just a way for Kishimoto to make it make sense that a 10-year-old is so strong. I think Shibai is really just a concept at the moment, and that's why I'd say Boruto is the strongest in the verse, as Shibai really isn't a character. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, because I feel like a lot of people may disagree that Shibai is just a concept at the moment. Anyways, that is it for this video. If you did enjoy, then make sure to smash the like button and comment your thoughts on this list. And if you disagree or have a different list, then make sure to let me know in the comments down below. If you do want to see more content like this, then make sure to subscribe, as I'm going to be releasing more Boruto content in the near future. And if you do want to see any other series covered on this channel, then make sure to let me know, or just check the other series which I've already covered in the past. But with that all said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.